Hello everybody, yes it is time for the post-game show, and this show is not going to be quite as comprehensive nor quite as lengthy as most of my other post-game shows. I can already hear a lot of you out there right now going, yay! Okay, enough of that. Anyway, reason why is because we knew entering this game that Oklahoma had far outmatched. They were more talented, they were more everything than Ball State. We knew this was going to be just like a scrimmage, a blowout. And it turned out to be just that. 62-6, Oklahoma moves to 4-0 after their drubbing of the Ball State Cardinals. So, of course, we're now just days away from the Red River rivalry, OU and Texas, which is shaping out to be another terrific game in that rivalry. Texas is improved, and they've improved noticeably. We'll talk about that, of course, on the weekly matchup show next week. Talking about the first quarter of this game, if you're a Ball State fan, you didn't feel too bad about yourself. It was only 10-6 Oklahoma at the end of the first quarter. Two reasons for that. Number one, because Ball State ran a deliberate style offense to where they took as much time off the clock as possible at the end of every play, and that basically shortened the game up. That's why of the first 17 minutes of this game, I think Ball State had the ball like 12 and a half or 13 minutes. OU moved the ball when they had in the first quarter, but they only had it, I think, 4 or 5 minutes. That's just because of their style of play. And then number two was because Ball State opened the game with an onside kick and recovered it, and then later in the quarter, Ryan Broyles did a rare boo-boo and fumbled a punt return, which Ball State took advantage of with a field goal. But with OU leading 10-6 early in the second quarter, the Sooners got it going and turned out the lights. 28 consecutive points in the second quarter, and OU led 38-6 at halftime, and again went on to win by that 62-6 score. Landry Jones, another day at the office, 425 yards, throwing 5 touchdown passes, just 1 pick, another solid game for Jones. And the receivers, 4 of them heavily involved on this evening, 3 of them set receivers, talking about Jazz Reynolds. Kenny Stills, good to have him back after that concussion that he sustained against Florida State, but still had the concussion systems, could not play against Missouri, but was cleared to play tonight and was solid. And Ryan Broyles, another touchdown game, another 100-yard receiving game for him. And wasn't just that, though, that made him a big name on this evening. He's now the Big 12's all-time leading reception receiver with over 300, and his career at Oklahoma isn't done yet. Still got the majority of the season remaining. So Ryan Broyles adding more and more accomplishments to his fantastic career at Oklahoma. So great job, Ryan Broyles, and also to that offensive line, because OU running and receiving were crisp on this evening. Over 650 yards of total offense, and a great way to enter the Red River Shootout in just a few days. So OU 4-0, and the defense, Tony Jefferson. Second quarter, it was Tony, interception, interception, interception. That's right, Tony has done it again. And he did something that I don't know if anybody's ever done. 3 consecutive interceptions, 3 consecutive Ball State drives, and nearly had a 4th interception off a 4th consecutive Ball State drive. He was everywhere for Oklahoma. Let's go ahead and briefly highlight the 4 keys to the game that I talked about on the weekly matchup show. Key number 1, running back distribution. I'm going A in this area because of the touches that the Oklahoma running backs got and the way they were able to move the ball. Dominic Whaley, 15 touches, over 100 yards on the ground. And Brandon Williams, first action this season, didn't know if Stoops was going to redshirt him, and we got the answer. It was a big, fat no. In fact, Williams tonight got more touches than Roy Finch. Could that be a sign of the future? Finch only got, I think, 4 touches tonight, and Williams, by the way, got a total of 11. And I thought Williams looked good with the first teamers late in that third quarter. Key number 2, quarterback pressure. I'm going to go I for incomplete, because on one hand, the Sooners did not get quarterback sacks tonight. Didn't get 1 sack on Keith Winning, but just because they didn't get a sack on him doesn't mean the defense didn't play outstanding. Ball State had less than 100 total yards of offense. Winning Entering this game, completed over 70% of his passes. On this evening, completed only 14 passes out of a possible 38. Don't tell me that's not defense, because it is. And we've already mentioned the 3 interceptions, all by Tony Jefferson in that second quarter sequence. So, no QB sacks for Oklahoma, but again, I can't give them an F in this department. I'm just going to go incomplete because the defense otherwise was about as perfect as you could be. Key number 3, get the issue decided early and get some backups in. I'm going A- in this department because the issue was decided before halftime. The Sooners, and some might question Oklahoma playing their starters for as long as they did. Some of them were playing in the fourth quarter, despite the fact that the score, I think at one point, was 59-6 and ended up being 62-6. Coaches know a lot more about football, a lot more about their personnel than I do. So, to me, I find it difficult for me personally to question it, especially in the case of Travis Lewis, where you're trying to get him as close to being as in game shape as possible. Remember, Travis only practices once a week because of the injury he sustained in August, and you're trying to give him as many reps in a game as you can. So no objection there. And on the offensive side, you want to see how Brandon Williams, your highly touted running back, does with the first team line and with the first team talent surrounding him. So for the most part, didn't really have an issue with the Sooners playing their starters as late as they did, despite the fact that OU is winning the game by, I think, 500 points. And then key number 4 is discipline. I'm going to go A- in this area too. There were a couple of turnovers that OU committed, but when you win a game 62-6, I have to give you a high grade. And besides one of the turnovers, a Landry Jones interception amounted to nothing for Ball State. The other turnover was the Broyles fumble on the punt return, which Ball State cashed in for 3 points. And then the Sooners disciplined big time as far as controlling penalties. Only 4 penalties on the night for Big Red. So A- as far as discipline. So for the Sooners, we can now finally talk about a big time showdown. It always is when you play Texas. The teams could be winless. It would still be a big matchup in the Cotton Bowl, but it's just the opposite. They are perfect, both 4-0, and Texas, dominant job against Iowa State, winning big. I think 37-14 was the final. The game really wasn't that close because Iowa State got garbage points at the end as Texas in the second half called off the Dogs. I think it was like 31 or 34-0 at half. The Texas defense is very, very tough, and they're going to make it tough for Oklahoma. So the Sooners better be ready to play come October the 8th, 11 a.m. in Dallas. But another good showing for Texas, who's noticeably improved from a year ago, as I mentioned. Other games in the Big 12, Kansas State, you have to give credit to Bill Snyder. It's the Manhattan Project Part 2. They're undefeated as they come from behind in the fourth quarter to knock off RG3, Robert Griffin III, and those 5 touchdown passes he threw against Baylor, RG3 had 5 touchdown passes for the Bears, but wasn't enough as K-State wins in a nail-biter. Texas Tech down 20-0 early, came all the way back and ended up winning 45-34, so Tech remains unbeaten. Up next for the Red Raiders, Texas A&M at home. And Texas A&M, boy, don't get me started. Second straight week they blow an 18-point halftime lead, and they're going to the SEC next year. Well, it would help if they beat an SEC team, and Arkansas has got their number. That's now 3 straight wins for the Hogs over the Aggies, as Arkansas comes back and wins the game. In fact, A&M only scored 3 points in the second half. So A&M's already got 2 losses. And to me, the obvious thing about A&M, they've got the talent, they can score, but they, to me, do not look like they're in terrific physical shape to give up those big leads in the second half in as many games. So that does it for my post-game show. Again, once again, your final: Oklahoma 62, Ball State 6 and a lapper. We can now get serious and get ready for the Texas Longhorns. Boomer Sooner.